Good evening, morning, or afternoon. I'm the Mainly Digger. And this video is about how Maine reacted to pandemics in the past. Spanish flu and tuberculosis. So outbreaks, not really pandemics, but outbreaks. And the facilities that they build for these outbreak patients. State-run facilities that were all over Maine during that time, the turn of the century, so 1900s, late 1800s, and early bit of the 1900s. So there's a bunch of state-run facilities in Maine that were dedicated to tuberculosis and the Spanish influenza outbreaks, pandemics. And this is how they handled it during that time, which, I mean, it just shows you things could always be worse in Maine. I don't know about anywhere else. I don't know how people are dealing with stuff out of state. But in Maine, it's not that bad right now. Could be worse. Was years ago, I was 13, so this is over 20 years. My dad worked at Togus, the VA hospital in Maine. And I put it in my video. And I volunteered. My dad volunteered me at this hospital. I did ran paperwork around the hospital, whatever. But my dad took me on a little walk or hike around the facility. The facility isn't that big, but the campus that it's on is huge. And there's all these old buildings. So we come up on this old building, and it's creepy. Like, it's dark. It's creepy. Like, disgusting. It had this big stack, this smokestack that came out of it. It was all boarded up, and it was, it was an old building. It was made out of stone, and it's probably down. But I've called Togus about it, and asking if I could make a video about different things, and no one knows or is saying anything about it. But we walked away, and I guess my dad asked about it. So a couple of days later, and he was probably just messing with me, or maybe he wasn't. He's like, "Hey, Brian, you know what that building was for?" I was like, "No, Daddy, what was that building for?" And he was like, "Back during the Spanish flu, the bodies that were unclaimed were incinerated." Like, I don't know, something about this pandemic made me remind me of that little hike or that little walk my dad took me on. He was probably just messing with me, maybe not. But that smokestack still sticks to my, in my mind. Like, that's how they took care of things. It was just weird. It was just a creepy building. Togus is creepy anyway, with a lot of old buildings. But here's my video, Mainly Dig Out. To this day, Togus just looks creepy. This is an older drawn picture of Togus. It's creepy. Togus is the VA hospital in Maine, which is, I think, either the oldest or one of the oldest hospitals still around. Before the federal government bought the property for veterans after the Civil War, it was going to be kind of like a fairground, resort type place, which obviously didn't happen. This is a more modern day version of the Togus campus, and it still pretty much looks like that today. I wish I had a picture of that building, and I won't go look for it, but I don't really remember where it was. It was a good 20 years ago, but there's so many buildings on the Togus campus that they're all creepy. Togus's heyday when it began was right during the pandemic, during the Spanish flu and tuberculosis, right during that time, right before 1900s and right after. So Togus would have had a way, or had to find a way to deal with this pandemic. If it got out of hand, then cremating the bodies would be a great way. I wouldn't say a great way to do it, but it's how it would have been done. To this day, like I said, I Not sure what that building was for. It was extremely creepy, like extremely. So in 1918, like everywhere else, the Spanish flu hit Maine pretty hard, especially in the more urbanized areas like Bangor and Portland. In that same year, in response to the pandemic, the Catholic Diocese of Portland opened up Mercy Hospital, which is back then known as Queen Anne's Hospital. The Catholic Church got involved because hospitals in the local area would not allow Irish Catholic immigrants into their doors. They wouldn't let them through their door. Mercy Hospital is still around. It doesn't have a really good track record. The positive effect of the Spanish flu in Maine is that councils were formed to make more public hospitals and showed that Maine needed more nurses and doctors. They needed doctors that were well trained. So Bangor had a response to the Spanish flu epidemic, which was Mace Homestead Bangor, which then grew into Bangor General Hospital and Eastern Maine Medical Center. Due to the pandemic, more was added on throughout the years, and this one it says 1899, eventually into early 1900s and 1918. And this was the hospital's first ambulance. I just thought it was cool. This is the hospital at the height of the pandemic in 1913. This picture is of the Central Maine Sanitarium, also known as the Chase Sanitarium. Most of the information that I've received or gotten for this building or these buildings, this sanitarium, is off the Kennebec County Paranormal Society. This sanitarium was built for the pandemic in 1909, and it turned into a tuberculosis hospital and closed in 1970. It is said to be located on Atwood Hill or Atwood Mountain in Fairfield. I've also heard it located in Waterville. Before the first building was erected, it was tent city there, so just an interesting place. Until I was looking for ghost stories when I found this location, or found the Kennebec Paranormal Society or Kennebec County Paranormal Society. So I found this location. It is still a state run campus, and you're not getting on there unless you have permission. The building is in disrepair anyway, and it's just dangerous. The building is dangerous and creepy. Our next hospital is in Presque Isle, which is way up north, what we call Potato Land. It was for tuberculosis patients. The Northern Maine Sanitarium was built in 1920 and closed in 1950. It closed in 1959. Apparently, I can't read. This is a modern day picture taken in 2003. There's vehicles there, so there's something that's there that's operational. I don't really know. As you can see, it's a fairly big facility. Like I said, it is in northern Maine, it's up there, like near the Canadian border. The next sanitarium or hospital was set up for tuberculosis in Western Maine. Western Maine Sanitarium was set up in Hebron. Most likely said that wrong. It was built in 1904, closed in 1959. It was demolished, obviously not around anymore. What I've noticed is all these buildings look the same, or they're the same style of building.